Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church. We are a welcoming congregation where we strive to transform ourselves and the world through love, wonder, and connection. My name is Lisa Furr. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as co-chair of the worship committee as well as on the shared ministry team. Whether you're here for the first time or the 1,000th time, welcome. Whatever you are facing in your own life, welcome. This is a place where we try our best to be real with each other and ourselves, to get through hard things together, and to remind ourselves and one another of the values that ground and center us, that motivate and move us. Whoever you are, whatever your faith journey, you are welcome here. We welcome all who seek to know the sacred and all who seek to make our world more just. We have another number of first-time visitors, and I'm going to read that again because it's a really important thing for me, and I enjoy it, and it's a large part of who we are. Whoever you are, whatever your faith journey, whomever you love, you are welcome here. We welcome all who seek to know the sacred and all who seek to make our world more just. Our commitment is to be together in covenant. So please join me in our affirmation of who this community is, beginning with that all-important word. Love is the message of this church, and service is our way. This is our great covenant together, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Let's join in singing our opening hymn, We Would Be One, number 318 in the gray hymnal, if you have it. Otherwise, the words will be on the board. Please stand in body or spirit.
I'm Reverend Sara. I use she, her pronouns. Our chalice lighting words are from Adam Slate, and Wyatt will come light our chalice. There's Wyatt. Thank you. You can come around here. Go ahead. Now blow out. Perfect. Good job. We gather this morning as one community, a community united by common ideals: love, justice, diversity, freedom, mutual care, and equity. Yet look around. Look at the faces of those around you. Each face represents an individual, every one of us with our own story, our own needs, strengths, and faults. We light our chalice today, honoring the common connection and also the uniqueness that lives within each of us. Please join me now in prayer or meditation. Find a comfortable place for your body, whatever that means for you. Notice your breathing. See if you can find a center. Take a moment to just be, allowing stillness to settle in. Consider the faces of those around you. Consider their hearts, their place, their needs. And consider for a moment what you would do, how you would show up for those people. How would they show up for you? With gratitude for all who have shown up and will show up for us. Amen. As we come together every Sunday from our own separate lives and our own separate homes, we bring with us a variety of joys and sorrows, fears and hopes. We take time in our service now to honor these big feelings together. We share this time as a contemplative time, each of us given an opportunity to share within this community what lifts us up and what weighs us down. Today, we will light candles of joy and hope for those things that lift our spirits. And we will also place stones to hold our sorrows and fears, to ease the weight from our spirits. So in a moment, I will invite y'all to participate in this ritual. But before I do, if you're online, I invite you to write your name and stone or candle next to it so we can include you in our ritual. And if you're in the room and would like someone to light a candle for you, please raise your hand. Lisa. Michelle. if you're in the room and would like someone to place a stone for you, please raise your hand. Gail. Thank you. Now I invite you to come participate in this ritual as much as you're willing. Coming around this way to light a candle, and Lisa will give you a candle, and coming around this way to place a stone. And you may do both at any time. We light a candle for Victoria, a candle for Porter, and a candle for Mel. And we place a stone for Porter. And we place one final candle for all the joys and hopes in our hearts that remain unshared. And one final stone for all that continues to weigh us down. Please join now in singing our sung prayer response, There is a Love.
Aren't you supposed to be up there, Dina?
Yeah, I decided I'm not going today.
What? Why not?
Because I couldn't think of anything to say.
I find that hard to do.
I know. I talk a lot. But that's just it. I go up there each week and I try to help the adults and the children and the youth understand a bit of what Sunday is about. I try to make the message accessible in different ways by writing a story or finding a book that fits nicely. I spend all week or more thinking and searching and writing, and I want it to be good. No, I want it to be great. Heck, I want it to be perfect.
Really? Perfect?
Yes, perfect. I mean, it's what they deserve.
I see. I see the predicament.
Exactly. So you see why I can't go up there. Because I just don't have it in me today. I don't have anything to say to inspire them. I don't know how to challenge them in their week.
That sounds tough, but I don't think...
People come up and say, oh, Adina, I really enjoyed your story this week, or that message was great, or that voice you used for that character was great. And I know that means that they just want bigger and better things each week.
Do they?
Don't they?
I'm not so sure. The messages are great. The voices, the books, but, you know, that might not be it, you know?
You mean you reckon they don't just come from my voices?
I mean, maybe, but maybe it also has something to do with your presence.
Oh, no, no, no. I tried that last week. Reverend Sara does not want me to bring gifts for everyone. She was talking about Oh.
Yeah, I think maybe what people are saying when they say thank you is that they're glad you're here. They appreciate that you show up.
You think so?
I do. So maybe now it's time to
To...
show up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well then, hi there. My name is Adina Danuf. I use she and they pronouns. And today I have shown up. And that is the first step, right? Whether it's a meeting or your job or a family gathering or a church service or an attempt to make change in the world, the first step is usually very much the same: to show up. So I'm up here. I showed up. Now what? Well, maybe the next step is to ask what is needed. So what do y'all need today? Hold on, you gotta say something more complicated. It keeps the story going. What do you need today? Everything. Future telling. Did I hear groceries, 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 groceries? Okay. Well, whoa, okay, I'm kind of feeling like I don't have the answers. Like I can't go buy your groceries or do everything. So maybe the next step is asking what is needed, but offering what you have to give. So I guess that I can ask or offer something that I have. Does anybody need a watch? Okay. Oh, okay. In our family, we say affirmations every night after we brush our teeth before bed. Could anybody use an affirmation today? Oh, good. Hands, hands, hands. That I can do. So these are the ones we use, and you can repeat them after me. We say, you are beautiful. You are beautiful. You are worthy. You are worthy. You are loved. You are loved. Let me tell you, I have a 3-year-old, and it's the cutest thing ever when she says, you are loved. And I guess that showing up and giving what you have really means something, because that 3-year-old who has heard these words nightly most of her life now tells them to my 1-year-old, all on her own. We gave them to her, we showed up, and now she passes them on. I think that means that ultimately being together is an important part of showing up. Being in community with one another, even when we don't know what to do, and figuring out our next steps together. With the way the world feels in my heart and my mind and my body these days, I really need a lot of together. That's probably why you're here. So naturally, my challenge to you in this week is to show up. Show up even if you don't think you have what is needed, or even if you're scared, or especially when you don't know what to do next, because it matters. And now, some of us are going to show up to class. Thank you.
Please join me in our morning offering, acknowledging all the ways that we give to this church and this world. We give because this is our church, and we value what it does for us, and through us to our community and the world. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this church, inside and outside our walls. May we give in hope and love. Thank you for your offering and all the ways you give to our life and ministry with your time, your talent, your treasure, and your trust. Together, our gifts allow us to expand and strengthen the tapestry of love, wonder, and connection that blesses this church and transforms us and our world. Our reading this morning is an excerpt from How to Be Alive, a guide to the kind of happiness that helps the world, by Colin Beavan. Through the tiniest of our world relationships, we affect both our own happiness and the happiness of the world. Our iPhones connect us to each other, yes, but also children working in factories in China. Our food choices connect us to domestic animals everywhere, and our oil use to Iraqi and Afghani widows and widowers. For so many of us, these relationships are out of line with our values, and we feel bad when we look at them. In our mistaken feeling of powerlessness, some of us develop a habit of suppressing or ignoring thoughts and feelings about these relationships. We stop listening to the little voice inside ourselves and put ourselves to sleep. This isn't to say that we ought to become overwhelmed with grief and sadness. Being alive to yourself doesn't mean you have to constantly bathe in the sorrows of the world. But instead of turning the sometimes painful feelings off, we have to come to terms with them. We have to be able to feel compassion for the suffering in the world without either feeling overwhelmed or having to go numb. We have to be able to be in the presence of our compassion. One way to do that is to be able to reassure yourself that you are taking some action.
In 2015 and 2016 were 2 incredibly difficult and life-changing years in my life. And as I sat there dealing with my own personal heartbreak, I watched the world go crazy. I watched, and I didn't have enough in me to join the revolution that I saw sprouting. I was too alive to my own grief to turn my face towards justice, and I am far from the only one. I felt guilty and selfish and a hypocrite. I could preach it, but I couldn't do it. It's my job as a minister to comfort your spirits, and it's my job as a Unitarian Universalist minister to also send you out to create the better world, even to work for it myself. But this has never been my strong suit. Creating justice opportunities, that's great. Other people do that and I can show up, but not as much. I'm a homebody and an introvert, and I don't really like to do things. I spent my time and energy as a young person creating beloved community in my own world through theater and in my youth community. This is where my call to ministry is rooted, in the community, in the people who are working together to create something beautiful together. To me, ministry is about people and connections. It's about building strong and healthy relationships, a place to come home to when life outside is beyond what we can deal with. This is my ministry, and it's part of why you're here, I think. Also, I was raised UU, so I know about social justice, for working for change, protesting in the streets, and giving our time in service. I know that to make a difference, you have to put your body, your money, and your time where your mouth is. You have to show up. You show up to vote in elections. You show up when you disobey unjust laws. You show up in the courtroom to support the unjustly accused or the victim of violence. You show up. So yeah, I know how to make change, but it's so easy not to. It is so hard to find the willingness to give up my peace and comfort for justice. And this is, of course, my privilege showing. As someone with a cis, hetero, able-bodied, white-skin privilege, I can live comfortably despite the oppression and injustice in this world. I have the choice whether or not to engage in the work of changing the world. So many of us do not. I can think about how to spend my money and where to spend my time and where to put my energy, and I can choose to put my energy into creating this beloved community and making a healthy future for my family. I live with the illusion that I have too much to lose to fight, to protest, to stop the wheels from turning, but I forget that I have too much to lose not to. We all do. Maybe we've all gone a little numb to the atrocities around us. We've all gone a little numb to the world. I'm overwhelmed with grief these days, not my personal grief anymore, but the grief that there's so much wrong with this world, and I feel powerless to change it. As Colin Bevan, the author, speaker, hope activist, said in our reading, in our mistaken feeling of powerlessness, some of us develop a habit of suppressing or ignoring thoughts and feelings. We stop listening to the little voice inside ourselves and put ourselves to sleep. So this is why we talked about staying present to ourselves last week, because we need to stay awake. We need to stay awake, but not overwhelmed. We have to empty our cups. We have to live our compassion, but not be swamped by it. And somehow, it's become clear to me that by doing good in the world, that's not only getting out of our own way to do that, but also about owning our value, our agency, about recognizing that you are needed. Yes, you specifically are needed. We can be present in our lives, and then we can hear the call for action when it comes for us. This week, a post by Sara Bergman has been circulating around on Facebook and other places. Here's what he said. Someone posted online to say that it appeared a cygnet was frozen to the ice and dying. As people worried online about how or whether it would be possible to help, naturalist Kirsten Langenberger replied to the post saying, "I am on my way with the necessary equipment." Langenberger brought a friend, some thermoses of warm water, and a surfboard in case the ice failed, the necessary equipment, and thawed, then freed the baby swan, which promptly flew off. There are a number of things I appreciate about this story, he writes, but it's Langenberger's statement that resonates for me. This is what I aspire to see injury or difficulty or something gone to trouble and decide, I am on my way with the necessary equipment. But also to hold on to the understanding that sometimes the necessary equipment is the resolve to try and a friend who will help. And that sometimes I am the necessary equipment, the friend who shows up to make myself useful under the direction of an expert. He goes on to say there are a lot of moments these days that I find very, very hard to do the next thing, or indeed to do anything. The world is so difficult. I often feel useless or overwhelmed or exhausted or just really sad. But I'm going to try starting the days by saying, with all the starch I imagine a naturalist willing to chance ice in dark to save a baby bird might possess, to say, I am on my way with the necessary equipment. So when you hear a need, when you feel a need, when you see a need, show up. Show up when you have the necessary equipment. Maybe your skill is cooking, and so you bring meals to folks in the congregation who need them. Maybe your expertise is with plants, and so you come and you plant native plants along our building to help things. Maybe your legal skills are something that you offer pro bono to members of the larger community. Maybe it's a listening ear for a refugee who's starting their life all over again. And if you think you don't have the skills or equipment, don't worry. There's always a place for you to show up. In your pajamas, online. Hi. Sorry, I got distracted by that. Okay, in your pajamas online, in your workplace, and an unexpected ally, as maybe one of the church's 50-plus friends who are going to the Risk Nehemiah action in March. Do you know about Risk and Nehemiah? Risk is Richmonders involved to strengthen communities. We are a member congregation. All year long, our justice ministers gather and plan and coordinate with the other risk justice ministers to coordinate on what practical things we can demand to make a difference in the lives of Richmonders. Every March, Risk holds a Nehemiah action where we're invited to help by showing up. Yep, that's it. Just show up and be present for a meeting with our local government officials to pressure them to do the important work that will make this city better for all of our neighbors. Okay, so take out your phones. No, I'm not joking. Please take out your phones if you have it, or write it down, or put it in your memory banks. March 25th. We need you there. All right? If you show up in our building here, we want you to show up to the action. So last year, we got the award for the highest percentage of members of the congregation who showed up. Not the most numbers, but the highest percentage. So if we want to keep that record going, we need you March 25th. And to help make this happen, we're commissioning today our risk justice ministers. They are here with us, many of them, and some not. They have other obligations. But I'll name them all, even if they're not present. If you are willing and able, rise when I call your name, and we will honor you with applause. First is Robin Allman. Gail Murphy. Colin Ferguson and Dina Ferguson, who are not here. Lisa Poe. George and Nicole McCurrack. John Scheidemann. Rick Lux, who is not here. Ross Varon. Terry Larkin and Bob Larkin. Vicki Dickinson. Wendy Sprout. And Porter Smith Thayer. Let's give a final round of applause to all of them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You may be seated. We are so grateful for these folks who show up for justice, for us, for Richmonders, for all. Thank you. So to change this world, we have to let go of those safe should-bes and afraid what-ifs to make our presence here matter. To show that we practice presence, to show that we are stronger together than when we are alone, to show that we can rise up and roll in and give for the people who need us most. We'll show up. We'll make it matter. We'll give all that we have. We've got no other choice. So in this season, turning now from autumn to winter, from despair to hope, let us invite in the spirit of Christmas, the new birth of hope for the world. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit to sing our hymn, number 224, Let Christmas Come. In preparation for our closing, if you are not sick, reach out. Like me, I'm going to hold my hands to myself so I don't spread germs. But reach out however you feel comfortable to connect with one another. When you go, show up in the world. When you go, go in peace. Salam
and shalom. Leave this place knowing that you are good and knowing that you are loved.
Take your dark and your light and your love from this place and share them with the world. And stay safe until we meet again.
Amen.
And before you go, we're having an informational meeting after the service. So stick around, get some coffee, come back. And if you're joining us, we're having a congregational meeting next week, an informational meeting this week. Hooray! Yes, there's a meet and greet. If you're here for the first time or have been coming for a little while and want to meet some folks, look for Cindy. Raise your hand, Cindy. There's Cindy and Meg. Meg back over there, and they'll help you get to the meet and greet. Be well. Enjoy. Thank you.
Board of Stewards have an informational meeting, and it just happened to land here in December. And I know we'll have another important congregational meeting, which will be a voting meeting next Sunday. But we thought, well, we should go ahead, and it's mainly to open the floor to concerns from you, as well as just fill you in with a few things that the board is dealing with at this time. So thank you so much. I almost wonder if we have the Kleenexes up front, because I don't cry because we're in bad shape, but I do cry sometimes, especially when I'm here at church, because I am so grateful that we exist. Sorely, these next 4 years are really important, and we can make a big difference in our community. We already, I think, make a great difference to each one of us here together, but we always are thinking outward towards the community and those that are hurting. All right, well, we usually start with Jeannie. She's so important. She's our finance person on the board.
Good morning. So I am I'm Jeannie Klein. I left my name tag at home, and everybody knows me there, but anyway. So I'm chair of the Finance Committee at church, and I'd like to, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I'd like to thank you for trusting us with this responsibility. And also would like to say that fortunately we are in a financially strong position right now. The latest figures we have are from October, which is 4 months into the fiscal year. So in that 4-month period, which is a third of the year, we have completed and received a third of your pledges. We've actually more than a third of the pledges. We've also incurred expenses under a third, but sometimes that's just timing in the year. So some expenses are paid up front, some expenses are paid later in the year, but we're roughly a third of the way in terms of expenses for the year. As we announced a month or so ago, we had some extra funding that we did not spend in the previous 2 fiscal years, and we were able to pay for the beautiful native plants that you see in Robin and Cheryl and I think Gail and lots of people helped with planting the native plants along with the firm that worked with us on that. So thank you for that. We also were able to provide some nice bonuses with that money for our staff. And we added a little bit to membership. They're not here to appreciate it, but they know. And some other needs that we have had over the years. One thing that we're doing now is looking at the long-term maintenance reserve. And for those of you who aren't aware of that funding, we put so much money into that reserve every year because we have a timetable for replacement or refurbishing of many of the items you see in the building and on the land. So we're working with B&G to come up with a timetable for replacement of certain things. The shed is one. Some of the cement pathway is another. Some of the gravel and the parking spaces, you know, that sort of thing. So we're looking at a timetable over the next 20 years for how we're going to maintain our replacements. And as most of you know, we're getting ready to gear up for budgeting for the next fiscal year. So if you're on a committee and want to have some input on the budget for your particular committee, please do so because the Finance Committee will take your amounts and justifications into consideration and report to the board what our recommendations are, and we'll go from there.
Any questions about finance or expenditures or anything like that? Okay. Thank you.
She took care of several things on my list. This is good. I did want to announce, if you had not seen in the e-news, that we have a new board member. Unfortunately, we were one short. The nominating committee was not successful in getting a seventh board member. So we have persuaded a very wonderful member of our congregation, Kendall Norden. She's not with us today. She's a single mom. She has a teenager, and she is a seminary student at, I believe, Star King. Is that the right name for our seminary in California? And she is such a marvelous person and will make a wonderful minister. I believe she's now saying she's got 2 more years in her program. And she has a 6-month time frame that she's going to be on the board with us. So this is sort of a new experiment for the board. And it is allowed in our bylaws when there is a vacancy for us, for the board itself, to appoint someone. And of course, the nominating committee was part of this decision as well. And we're so pleased that she's going to be with us, because we're a bunch of old codgers and we needed somebody younger. I don't know whether Reverend Sara has any words about the interviewing to replace Raymond. I think we all know Raymond has found a very nice position at River Road Church, Baptist, which I used to be a member of for 20 years. So I'm happy for Raymond, but very sad for us, and we're slowly making our accommodations to keep up with everything that he kept up with for us. If you'd like to say a word, thanks.
We've had 13 applicants, and we've interviewed, first interview on Zoom 5 applicants, and have 2 in-person interviews, 1 last week, 1 tomorrow, and hopefully we will move forward swiftly. I doubt we'll get someone in before the first of the year because as Mary Virginia may tell you, the board approved the staff having time off between Christmas and New Year, so we're closing the office during that date. But we'll see. Hopefully, cross our fingers, we get someone in.
Thank you, Reverend Sara. Another item related to the congregation to donate extra monies at this time of the year for a bonus. But since we had a surplus in our coffer, the board decided to take money from the surplus and automatically do the bonuses. And those have already been reflected in their last pay stub, so they already have their bonus in hand. Raymond did, and also the dear man, Travis. We gave Travis also. Yes. The next item I had is that you may have heard we were talking about a kitchen update. Now, it wasn't an overhaul of the whole kitchen by any means, but we were going to replace the countertop and the sink. And we were really, really close to doing that. And then at the end of October, we got the long-term maintenance report from a company we hired to review our plan. And with the receiving that report, Finance Committee and B&G and the Board of Stewards has some work on our hands to decide the things that they think maybe are immediate, that maybe we will need to wait on the kitchen upgrade until we fully look at the report that we were given. So hopefully there'll be news on that in another month or so. All right. And I wanted to remind folks that we are one of 7 churches in the eastern part of Virginia, and they're called the Tidewater Cluster. And some of you in this room know about the Tidewater Cluster more than I do, but I am becoming quite familiar with it. I'm taking the place of Kevin Paris, and believe me, you can't do that. He is irreplaceable. He is not to be forgotten, and at every meeting, people are asking how you are doing, and they miss you very much. So I am trying my best to be the chairman of this year's committee, planning for the next gathering, as they call it. It's a one-day event, and it will be April 26th from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. It will not be here at UUCC. We're just not big enough quite, and our internet capacity is not so great. So First Church has agreed for us to use their facility, but we do need an enthusiastic number of members to go to First Church that day and to help us run the event. I am beginning to ask some people in advance for particular skills, like approaching our wonderful cooks from the Baker's Dozen, and we'll probably start meeting in January to talk about the food, which includes breakfast, lunch, and snack food for the day. And those ladies will probably need lots of hands to help them in the feeding process. The other part, the most important part probably of the cluster, is to gather ideas of what subjects churches are really interested in now. Now, with some, and if you have anything in mind that it's something that's been worrying you, that you think maybe we could turn into a seminar topic, I would love to hear your comments about that. All right. And the last thing I was going to mention today, except I don't want to forget Ross. Ross, did you need an announcement time to talk about the Christmas project?
No, we're in the middle of it. You can see the gifts out there. We have one more Sunday. So next Sunday will be the last day. We're going to deliver the gifts to reestablish Richmond to the refugee families that need our help. The next Monday on the 16th. There are still gifts to be given. Still need some people to sign up to get it. We want everybody to get everything that they ask for. And they're really just asking for winter clothing, just necessities. So these are people in dire need. You can find the link. There was a special email that was sent out by the church, or also in the e-news if you have a calendar. But every bit is appreciated.
Yeah.
Can you all use the microphone? They can't hear online if you're talking in here, and the closed captions are doing an embarrassingly bad job.
I didn't say any bad words, Michelle. I called John Everett after we got that email the other day because I opened it up and the spreadsheet, everything was taken. And I'm like, why would they send something when everything is taken? So I thought, well, maybe I'm not seeing it all. I'm not seeing it all. And now I lost my train of thought. There's tabs on the bottom. So, and click on those. And I suggest you do not do this on your phone. Get a bigger device because it's just too hard to see. From the peanut gallery.
I was just wondering, could you speak about the visioning part of our plan, or is that being held for a later time? Didn't we have a visioning team? And that was going to maybe tie in?
Rick Lux, who is one of our board members, had started working on planning to have an Imagining Our Future team. And when we first started as the new group of the Board of Stewards on July 1, we started realizing that we had so many projects lined up for the next 12 months, and that we felt the most important item on our list of projects was the call process task force. and we didn't want to interfere with the system that the UUA recommends for the call process task force, which is small group meetings. So we have delayed beginning the Imagining Our Future until after our decision is made about our future minister. So we have not forgotten it. It is quite important. I think we're at a crossroads where this church needs to ask itself again, does it want to grow? What do we want to be doing in our community? That's true. Cheryl was saying that maybe a good topic for the Tidewater Cluster meeting for all the churches, not just ours, is something like imagining our future, of looking at where your church is and what in the future you would like to see your church be. Thank you. Yeah. So my last item today was just to say that I'm so hoping that many of us will attend next Sunday, the 15th. It will be a special service. It's totally being done by the Call Process Task Force, which I admire them taking on that task. You can hire an outside minister to come in and help you with that, but no, they're going to do it themselves, and they're excited about it. The task force came to me several weeks ago and said that they would like the church to reconsider a portion of our bylaws, which is the percentage that we will accept on a vote for a contract minister. Our bylaws do not even refer to a contract minister. In the UUA, there are many categories of ministers. It's mind-blowing if you take the time to read the documents. So the task force and I and the Board of Stewards felt like we need to amend the bylaws. So this week in the e-news, we will have the text that comes from the bylaws and from an addendum to the bylaws that you may never have known existed, but it does. It's about how to conduct church business in congregational setting. So we have a number of places in the text where we wish to add the term contract minister, and the task force feels strongly that we need to change the percentage of positive votes for contract ministers, not for the regular settled minister process, but for contract ministers who serve often 2 years with a congregation. So the main amendment is to change from 95% approval to 85%, which is done in many UUA churches today. So that will be what we will vote on after the service next Sunday. UUA recommends this, yes. Yes.
And just for clarification, my understanding is we're not changing anything, but adding to. I think there's a microphone back here that is.
So add one.
So yeah. So like Mary Virginia said, there's nothing in our bylaws that address what percentage of the vote should be acceptable for calling a contract minister. So there was nothing in there. It was only for when you go through the whole search and that process. That's the only thing that is addressed. And so that's why we wanted to, it's being added to, like, what do we do when it's a contract minister? And so it's just giving what the recommended. So that's where we got that. Not changing, but just adding to it for this situation, like now and in the future.
Thank you.
Any other comments or topics you'd like to address today? Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Thank you, Sarah.